Smart machines are evolving at unprecedented pace and can be harnessed by enterprises to accelerate their digital business journey. Business and IT leaders are stepping up to a broad range of opportunities enabled by smart machines, including smart vision systems, virtual customer assistants, smart agents, and natural language processing. Every aspect of IT that touches people and every form of information of value to people will acquire or otherwise be impacted by smart machine capabilities. I would like to welcome the speakers for our webinar session today. Ashwin Venkateshan, Practice Director from the Everest Group, and Chandra Mauleshwaran, Head and Vice President, Infrastructure Practice at GAPS Technologies. Ashwin is a member of IT Services Research Team of Everest and assists clients on topics related to cloud and infrastructure services. Ashwin is responsible for driving syndicated as well as custom research engagements covering service provider landscapes and current trends across broad set of IT infrastructure service teams. Chandra heads the IMS practice at GAPS. He has around 25 plus years of rich experience in IT infrastructure management, enterprise applications design and development, and incubation of new product services in various industries. His focus is to create IP solutions and has patents to his credit. Before we start, we have a poll question for you. Yeah, the poll question is now there on the screen. So, which of the following is the primary objective for your IT infrastructure services automation strategy? Is it to reduce costs, to improve infrastructure resilience, to support digital initiatives, or all of the above? I request the audience to actually give in their answers in the poll. People are giving their options. We'll just give some more time for people to give their responses. All right, so let us look at the results of the poll. There you go. So you have seen people, most of the people giving all of the above as an option. Ashwin, I would like you to comment on the responses and then give your views of what the industry is seeing as a trend in the smart mission space.
Thank you so much, Anand. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Ashwin, and it's a real pleasure to be speaking with you today. So, very interesting set of results, but not at all surprising, right? Given today's competitive environment that we see businesses operating in. So, if you look at how traditionally IT infrastructure services has been delivered, the primary objective function used to be cost. But now, as businesses look for faster time to market and then drive competitiveness, it is very clear that resilience as well as having an infrastructure that is well aligned to serve digital initiatives has become critically important. Now, this very nicely segues into the first topic or theme that I wanted to bring up, so we can actually move along here. Right. So what I'm going to talk about is some of the industry trends that we are seeing, how we see the IT infrastructure services landscape currently shaping up, and what kind of role smart machines are expected to play over the coming months, years, and time. Now, as all of you clearly agree, which is through the survey data, businesses are becoming increasingly digital. So time to market has become a critical component. Businesses need to take products to the market. They need to adopt a fail-fast approach. So against this entire backdrop, there's a newfound implication for IT infrastructure services, right? Now at Everest Group, we reach out and speak to a lot of enterprises all around the year. So one of the recent initiatives that we had conducted is to reach out to more than 200 global CIOs and IT infrastructure services heads. So the idea was to try and understand what are some of their current priorities in terms of technology adoption and then challenges and so on and so forth. So the results were pretty interesting. If you look at the left side of the slide, it is pretty clear that next generation IT infrastructure adoption is pretty high up on the CIO agenda, right? Let's take cloud for example. Cloud is now mainstream. It's not a question of whether cloud needs to be adopted, but it's more around formulating a roadmap where we try to understand which workloads make sense on which cloud and orchestrating the entire hybrid environment. So concepts such as software-defined infrastructure, VDI, desktop as a service, converged infrastructure, you name it, all of this is pretty much high on the enterprise agenda at this point. But the key thing to notice is as we move to the right of the slide, the same set of enterprises who are making all of these investments still have fundamental issues in terms of the way IT infrastructure services is being delivered to their business. More than 70% of enterprises still believe that their infrastructure is simply still not scalable or cost effective. A lot of them believe it's simply not responsive to meet the cyclical business demands that they're currently looking at. And to top all of this, there's a huge integration challenge at this point in time. So when we see the disbalance between the left and the right side, what we believe one of the key links or the pieces that is missing in this entire jigsaw is having a sound automation strategy in place. Now, traditional automation has been around for a very long time. Enterprises have been writing scripts and runbook automation, which is a pretty well-entrenched concept. So where is the challenge coming? So if you look at these next generation themes, the problem is they have made the IT infrastructure landscape so complex that traditional automation is simply not designed to handle them anymore. Now let me take an example. Let's think of VDI, right? Now what we currently have in enterprises is a team which manages the Active Directory part of it. There are other teams responsible for VM provisioning, for OS, and so on and so forth. Now the issue here is automation and management is now actually siloed between these different teams. So when you think about rolling out an application and which needs to move through the testing, through the UAT, through the staging, through the production environment, the sets of configurations that are required are different, and therefore the traditional automation scripts that have been written completely fail. So there's a complete break in the entire process or chain. So picking from this example, it's not at all surprising that more than 70% of the enterprises believe that the current automation strategy is simply not good enough. And this is where we believe smart machines stand to play a key role going forward, right? So let's see how automation has been evolving in the IT infrastructure services landscape. As I mentioned, traditional runbook automation and scripting has been around for a long time, but the problem is it's primarily designed to manage standardized environments and static processes. They cannot adapt to changing requirements in the client environment, and therefore, and the other reason has been that the focus has primarily been on reducing costs and manual labor, which simply does not cut anymore. This is where smart automation comes into the picture. So what do we mean by smart automation and machines anyway? So this is a concept where we are talking about building automation systems which are self-healing, self-configuring, and then self-learning. So the idea is to take the knowledge and experience that is inherent inside the client and inside an enterprise environment, apply a solid layer of machine learning and analytics to then contextualize some of the automation that is being conducted. So the idea here is to drive a lot of business resilience as smart automation is being applied, right? So the fundamental difference here is the automation concepts that are applied are contextualized and have the ability to adapt to any changing requirements in an enterprise environment. So we believe that the next foray is obviously cognitive, where we bring in a lot of elements such as NLP and other AI concepts, and to drive a lot of analysis of unstructured data to build what we believe is a truly self-aware infrastructure, but it's a fair distance away in our opinion. But definitely smart machines are here, and we believe that as next generation infrastructure becomes a norm, smart machines will play a key role in enterprise environments. So just to recap, traditional automation based on scripts, RBAs, the primary focus has always been only on resolving faster, reducing manual effort as much as possible. So we are talking about a highly reactive system which is aligned only to the traditional model of services management that we know of. By the way, all of this only has a relevance for maintaining and improving IT metrics without any business context. So how does smart automation help us? It helps us move towards an environment where we are talking about zero resolution. It's about minimizing and actually neutralizing incidents from happening in the first place. It's about being predictive, proactive, taking into account the real-time data that we can get from different monitoring tools, event management tools, and so on and so forth. So the ultimate end game is that we are looking at delivering IT services which is highly business aligned and can help drive business metrics, and not just talking about keeping lights on for the IT, right? So moving on, where do we see smart machines being adopted currently anyway? So if you look at the IT infrastructure services stack, we possibly see use cases for smart automation across the board. Let us take the end user management, which is the topmost layer where IT infrastructure touches the end user, right? So we see in the advent of chatbots which are intelligent, which can work on a lot of existing data ticket knowledge to actually suggest to end users what kind of resolution can be done for simplistic issues that are being raised, right? So we're not just talking about bots which can log tickets, but can actually intelligently, based on the context, suggest some of the relevant that can be taken. ITSM. So once the ticket is logged, what kind of intelligent automation can be run to ensure that the ticket is routed to the right person with the right skills and the right availability? When a service desk agent wants to resolve a ticket, what kind of assistance can be provided autonomously based on the knowledge and experience that has been gathered in terms of solving similar tickets before? How can end user experience be tracked, and then some of the workflows can be triggered to correct existing issues that are present? Again, in the IT operations part, this is a huge space where we see potential for smart automation, right from in-depth root cause analysis, using a lot of existing monitoring tool information, tickets, events, to try and understand where current issues are lying, and then solving them proactively even before an end user gets to know it or actually faces a problem in the first place, right? So clearly there are multiple examples that are coming up for smart machines within in terms of their applicability in the IT infrastructure services space. Now, given that we have established the role that smart machines can play and the kind of value that bring to the table, I wanted to round off this particular session by talking about some of the key things that enterprises need to keep in mind in terms of their automation adoption journey. Now, what we have seen is many enterprises traditionally have taken a tools-based approach. Okay, let me go and check which is the best automation tool in the market. Let me implement it and see what benefits that it get. But the problem is such an approach lacks complete business context. It doesn't take into account the existing operations maturity that is present. Increasingly, what we see a good practice among enterprises is to try and have automation a part of their managed services construct, right? So the focus is not just on the tool, but also what kind of value the service provider can bring to the table in terms of standardizing some of the operations and services that are being provided. Now, the only challenge here is it is very difficult to demarcate what kind of benefits are being witnessed primarily due to cost arbitrage versus the automation that is being implemented. Governance becomes a challenge because there is no central tracking of automation initiatives and what kind of benefits it's bringing to the table. So our message to enterprises is, as you think about automation and you talk to service providers for delivering IT infrastructure services, you need to start thinking about automation as a completely separate task. You need to contract for service outcomes, and you need to separately contract for automation benefits. Ask questions around what is the TCO for the automation implementation? What are the benefits that can be seen? What are the security measures that have been taken to make this entire automation suite completely reliable, right? So now what this does is this puts onus on the service providers to drive automation and show benefits separately, and also drive new use cases and bring value to the team. So we urge enterprises to keep this particular point in mind. So net-net, to summarize, smart machines are here to stay. We believe as use cases mature, smart machines stand to play a key role in way IT infrastructure services is delivered in today's digital age. So I'll be happy to take up questions at the end of the session around the points of view that I presented. But before we move along, we think this is the best time to have a second poll question. So the question is, which service layer do you believe would be the most relevant use case for smart organization within your organization? Will it be the end user management space? Will it be the ITSM layer? Will it be core IT operations? Or will it be within the data center and cloud? So let us give all of our audience around 20 to 30 seconds to respond to this. And hereby, I pass on the floor to Chandra.
Yeah, we give 5 more seconds for people to key in your results. Yeah, the results. Chandra, you want to give your thoughts about what people are thinking about it?
Yes. Before that, thanks, Ashwin. And to the audience, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Chandra Mauliswaran. Ashwin, thanks for laying the land of the automation and the smart machines. I'll take over from there. So before I jump into my portion of smart machines, so the results shows here that 29% of the audience wants IT operations as the layer they would want to move. Other three are not lagging very behind. They are also equally close. So what it tells that is most of the audience, or rather most of the organizations, have actually done with this end user management or ITSM, and IT operations is actually on the advanced layer where they want to do this automated incident change management, root cause analysis, which is actually a direction towards reducing the incidents, and what Ashwin talked about is the zero resolution. So I'm happy that we are at this stage, and I think the smart machine will help all of us and all our infrastructure to be more intelligent and take us towards these zero resolution or zero incidents. Okay, so now I'll start from where Ashwin had started from his first slide. He has given some data points about the important priorities that organizations are having. See, in any organizations, there are three different roles um, there are three different players. So CIOs, IT operations manager, and developer. Each of them have different expectations and different requirements. Like CIO is always want to always want to see how to make his IT organization agile enough to make the business agile, or how can he introduce digital transformation? How can he think more about digital transformation and worry less about runtime worries? And how can I make the organization compliant? Of course, above all, how can I reduce the cost and make it more lean? Now, if I take the IT operations manager, his worries and his expectations are, how can I provide the availability of systems all the time? How can I improve that? How can I increase the efficiency? How can I utilize the resource to the maximum possible? Above all, how can I run my network, my infrastructure highly secured, and how can I prevent ransomware? So these are his worries. Then we have developers. So who wants his environment to be set up very quickly? Who wants to set up his platform to develop quickly, test and build quickly, and how can he actually go back to his previous version to start doing the testing or debugging? So everywhere we see speed is of the essence, and if you look at all the expectations of all these three roles, there is one common thing that runs across. That is, all of them need automation, and not just automation, it's automation using smart machines. So the simple automations were there about 3 or 4 years ago, which is very mundane, non-interactive, and one way. So it takes instructions from some of the ticketing tools or monitoring tools, and this does one thing, and it does not do beyond. But now we are actually in the next era of automations, that automation using smart machines. That is what we'll be seeing in the next 10-15 minutes. Now, all of you or many of you may know what smart machine is. Ashwin also explained. Now, let me also say what smart machine is from the user point of view or from an IT manager point of view. So smart machines, it thinks like a human and reads like a human, and of course executes better than a human. When I say better than a human, in terms of speed and accuracy, it does not make mistakes. It always does faster than what a human does. Now, so smart machine always comes with some of the niche technologies, and it's a combination of many machine learning. Then we have natural language processing, we have predictive analytics, and artificial intelligence. Each of them have their own set of technologies and algorithms. For example, if you take natural language processing, there are things like pause algorithm, which is used for text analytics. Then we have a tag and token assignment, which is used for assigning tags to extract meaningful phrases. Then we have sentiment classification, which is widely used, and it's used for classified algorithm, which segregate polarity-based sentences. Similarly, if you go to predictive analytics, there are many methods, many forecasting methods, and some of them frequently used are that ARIMA forecasting. This helps to provide prediction value for some of the data that the system receives. Then we have time series analysis. This also again forecast values by considering seasonality level variation on the data that comes to its system. Then you also have logistics and linear regression. This is mainly used in the service desk and command center area to predict value with the correlation factor. And when it comes to correlation, all of us have been talking about correlation, but correlation is very less achieved when we actually put into this. The success of correlation has been very, very low. The penetration of correlation into identifying the right cause has always been very low. Now, predictive analytics combined with this linear regression helps us achieve that better. Similarly, when it comes to artificial intelligence, it has learning, reasoning, and self-correction. Ashwin talked about that self-healing, self-correction. So the smart machines do not require anything from human. It automatically learns by itself and automatically knows what to do, and thereby provide the desired results. Now, this automation actually evolves in 3 phases, maybe 4 or 5 different phases in different organizations, but largely all organizations start with a simple robotic process automation. So robotic process automation, it's just done at the front end, and it does not do anything at the back end. So it's kind of eco-friendly. So you can start from very quickly, and you can start the automation, reap the benefits of the automation using RBA. Now the problem with RBA is that it's very, very primitive. whatever you do it for one process, you cannot repeat that for another process. You need to develop it all over. So is the case, you can't use it for another customer. But it somehow it provides kind of automation. It is largely used where there is quite a lot of volume. Now then came the intelligent automation. So intelligent automation has a bit of autonomics inside, and in case it has some kind of self-healing, and it's largely done at the back end, which means that you can create an automation workflow or engine which can be used for multiple process, or a components of an automation engine can be used for multiple process. So when you make it reusable, then you make it configurable. So you make it configurable and make it usable for multiple customers. So that's the intelligent automation. Now the third one is the smart machines, where you bring in all these artificial intelligence, predictive analytics, and natural language processing. So this reads the data, and based on the pattern, based on the history, it predicts what will happen to the infrastructure. Then automatically it informs the user stakeholders. Based on the response, it learns, okay, this is how the system has been behaving, this is what the user expectation, so let me correct myself. And it continuously reads input, provides output to the IT managers, and reads from what they are saying, again reads the machine. So continuously it learns, and over a period of time it becomes really smart in bringing down the incidents or the failures. Now let's see how the smart machines enable the new age monitoring. So till about 10 years ago, the monitoring tools like SolarWinds or Nagios or similar kinds of tools have been doing a set of alerts, set of automations only. And it does not go beyond a set of activities, like it does not go beyond server start or stop, or services stop or start, or the resource utilization. Basically because it was reading a set of data from the systems and providing only a few filtered data to the automation engines, because of which the ability of the automations to predict wider things were very limited. So then came the tools like Splunk, which actually started reading the native logs, the logs that are generated by the operating system or the applications or the database. So because it was able to read the log at the source, the ability of these tools are much more than what the other tools have been providing before it. Now, the problem here is, what if the application, the homegrown application or any other application, has not generated any log? Then the ability of identifying the events in that particular log is missed out. So that is where the third generation, what we call the instrumentation logs came. So this uses the instrumentation technology, and it actually generates the logs by instrumenting the application. So instrumentation, like any other typical instrumentation in engineering instrumentation, it instruments the application and tell us the health of the application through various forms, logs, exceptions, traces, errors, and all. So since we are having the ability of getting the most of the logs, now we have quite a good amount of data. Now all these are fed into the predictive engine. So as you all know, the prediction is better if we have the more data, and if the quality of the data is very good. Now that is where the prediction, the predictability of an event, forecasting ability of an event or predictive engine, when you receive data only from a traditional monitoring tool, is much less than what it would be if you are receiving the data from an instrumented system. So the logs that are generated through this instrumentation all are fed to the real-time intelligence engine. So GCAR is one such tool that we have. So this real-time intelligence engine reads two things. One is the application performance, and also it measures the user experience. While it continuously measures the application, what are the resources it is utilized, what are the events that the application and the middleware and the operating system underneath are providing, and what are the bottlenecks that the database is facing. It collects all the logs and sends these logs to the GCAR, the real-time engine. In addition, in parallelly, the users, or the experience of the users in terms of what's the response they are getting for the transaction, that is also being captured and being sent to that. So the real-time engine does what is required for today, that is today. So is the application going through some critical bottlenecks that need to be attended. And what is the user experience? Is any user is experiencing poor responses than what has been accepted as the acceptable response time in the organization? It alerts these things, and then it sends these alerts to the service desk or the level 2 or level 3 according to the process, and it also sends some instructions to the automation platform ZMan. We'll come to that little later. Now the same data is also being sent to prediction engine. So Gavel is one such prediction engine, and the Gavel, based on the data that it receives, it understands what has happened in the past, and based on the algorithm that it has been put into, it tells what is going to happen in the next 1 week or 2 weeks. So that's how the prediction is happening. Now both of them are fed to the ZMan, and ZMan, based on its programming, it executes certain activities or it waits for the user to intervene and decide what to do. So by having the combination of the instrumentation, the predictive analytics, and the automation, smart machine automation, we are able to predict the events much well in advance, and also tell the IT managers what needs to be done, and also equipping the automation platform to do what is required to do that. By doing this, we can actually significantly reduce the incidents. Now, there is another case. This is again a typical of any organization. In any organization, we have a different platform for creating virtual desktops. Ashwin talked about this VDI and how VDI plays an important role in the automation. So we have a separate platform for virtual desktops, and we have a separate platform and management for provisioning servers for the infrastructure need that is run. Plus we also have a separate DevOps platform which spins off machines for the testers and then deploys machine for the production. That's the third different platform. Now the trend is, why don't we integrate all these platforms into one platform so that we have one single interface for both the users as well as for the IT managers to look into that. Now, when you integrate, you can provide a single self-service portal for the users and the developers and the IT managers, through which they can actually create their own desktop, either virtual or shared, or the IT managers can create the servers, or the developers or DevOps team can have their own stack of system. When I say stack of system, it is not one server running one OS. It's a stack of multiple set of machines, like 2 web servers, 2 application server, 2 database servers, all in clustered. All of them can be created by click of a button. And then you also have modules, packaged images that can be deployed along with that. So this is the way the organization should move or is moving towards creating a true IT on demand. Now, if systems are provisioned using this kind of integrated platform, and if the systems are monitored using the method that has prediction, smart machine, and instrumentation, then it is sure that organization will experience lesser and lesser incidents, and the availability will go more and more. Now, let's see how the machines driving the zero IT incidents. So Ashwin talked about that zero resolution, which means how can we prevent incidents from where it's happening. So I have given few numbers based on the industry numbers. So a very good organization have a P1 about 0.03% and P2 of 0.17%, rest are all P3 and P4. Now the systems create these events. So the GCAR, which is running inside the systems and the network, continuously monitor all the applications and continuously note the events, and it identify the events that are potentially enough to become priority 1 or priority 2 in the next 1 week or 2 weeks, and accordingly it alerts the network operations if it is a network severity or data center or security monitoring. Now these 3 teams, level 2 or level 3 teams, will continue to receive the predictions or what we call as the opportunities. Similarly, the users create service requests and incidents, which are mostly P3 and P4 category. Now, in any organizations, if you look at the service desk data, excuse me, about 40 to 50% of the tickets are simple and it good candidates for automation. So an automation that is deployed at the service desk to take care of this 50 to 60%, all these tickets could be automated. Then we have service requests. Service requests can be automated by having a good process or improved process with the technology infused into that. Then we have desk side incidents. Desk side incidents happen basically because some of the incidents that need to be resolved only at the desk side. Now we have Zdesk, which is the virtual desktop interface that takes care of eliminating the desk side incidents. So by combination of this Gcare, Zman, and Zdesk and Gavel, so the data from Zman and Gcare are fed into the Gavel. Now Gavel predicts and sends it to the command center, and so by manual intervention by this L2, L3 team, or by programming Zman, if you take action and if you continuously do this, so over a period of time, you you are sure that the incidents are not happening. Incidents will get identified well in advance. Then the IT team will work for tomorrow. They don't work for today. They will work for tomorrow. So a system will generate that the operating system will crash in the next 2 weeks. Then the IT team will start working on to prevent crash that is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks. By continuously doing this, we actually target organizations towards zero incidents. Now let me talk about the case studies where these tools have been deployed and what results it has given. For a hospital in US where we have implemented a set of tools, not all the tools, a set of tools. And what we have seen here is it immediately resulted into increased uptime from 94 to 99.9%. Then the most important thing, the shift left, which we have actually seen only on paper, the shift left where we actually move L3 to L2 and L2 to L1, we have actually taken that from 0 to 25%. So today, 25% of the tickets that are normally done by the L2 and L3 are being done by L1. This is possible by a combination of automation and few delegated process. Then the FCR increased from 45 to 80%, again thanks to this smart machines automation. Then incident reduction from 1.8 per user per month, it has been brought down to 0.8, and also the savings of 40% with overall. If I go to another one, it's PR firm, again it's US based. After implementing some of the predictive tools, predictive and automation, we are able to decrease the triage time from 8 minutes to 4 minutes. And also the response and resolution SLAs have gone up 30%. And in fact, the response is close to 100% SLA and resolution is 99.8% SLA. Then the customer satisfaction increased from 4.5 to 4.8. By the way, the percentage of customer survey, customer responses have also increased from 1.5 to 10% because of the better response they have been getting. And finally, 40% of the tickets have been reduced in just over 3 months. And we have identified another 20% to be done in the next 6 months. So we are having a target to achieve 60% reduction in the tickets for this customer. So that ends my presentation, and let me have another question for you. What's your organization adoption outlook towards smart machine within IT infrastructure services? Unlikely to adopt in the foreseeable future, or you may consider adoption sometime in the future, or considering adoption or running initial pilots. Some adoption has already happened within our organization, which is what I think may happen from the responses to the previous poll question. Or the last one is already adopted across large parts of the organization. So can you please take your 5 to 10 seconds to respond to this question? Okay, so here are the results. So the 22% of the audience said that some adoption has already happened within our organization, which is a good trend. There are 4% who unlikely to adopt in the near foreseeable future. Then there are about 14 plus 8, another 22% may consider, or they will start with the pilots. And I'm sure those whoever is going to start the pilot, they will see the benefits of this automation. So for those who have already adopted, I think you must have seen the benefits of that. And if you have started with a simple RBA kind of automation or the intelligent automation, I think it's time for you to get into the smart machine automation. That is because the results are much more than what you get in the simple RBA or intelligent automations. And not only in terms of cost, in terms of the delivery to the end users and the customers are much higher when you actually embrace the smart machine. So Ashwin, you want to respond to this survey?
Yeah, thanks, Chandra. So, like you mentioned, right, the results are not at all surprising. So, I believe that if we were to again run the similar poll 1 to 2 years down the line, we'll see a lot of these eventually move towards considerable or a large part of organization being adopting this. So this is a good start and a good trend, and as I mentioned earlier as well, as the enterprises start seeing some of the benefits from the pilots and the use cases become very matured and well established, we see adoption only increasing down the line.
Yeah, thanks, Ashwin. And then we move to the question and answer session now. If you have any questions, you can start typing in. We have already seen people typing in some questions. So if you have any questions in mind, you can type in the chat window. We'll be receiving that. So here's the first question. Where does smart machine play a major role? Keeping the lights on or in transformational activities? Chandra, you want to?
Yes, I'll take that. So definitely it plays a major role or larger role in the transformational activities, because for lights on, you don't need a smart machine. It can be done by the simple robotic process automation or IT process automation, even with intelligent automation. Smart machine come into play when you want to take the organizations into the new level, or when you want to infuse digital transformation into the business that we have been doing. So in my view, I think it is more relevant in the transformational. Ashwin, you want to chip in?
Absolutely, Chandra. So, yeah, we do believe the same. So traditional automation has been around quite some time, which has been more focused around keeping the lights on. So if you think of your environments and I will go back to the VDA example that I talked about. When you are implementing such new next generation technologies, and then you have an environment which basically has become much more complex. Let's take another example. So Chandra was talking about digital transformation. So one of the underlying pillars for digital transformation or driving digital transformation is its cloud adoption, which is leading to a lot of sprawl in the sheer volume of VMs that are being managed, for instance. And these VMs keep ported from one environment to another. So how do you ensure that you have an automation system that is self-correcting and can adapt to various configuration changes that are happening in the environment, for instance? So in that sense, when we think about themes which are transformative like cloud, those are some of the areas where we believe smart machines truly stand to offer value for enterprises.
Thanks, Ashwin. So the next question from the audience: how do you see AI ops impact infrastructure automation? Also, how do you compare AI ops versus predictive analytics? Chandra?
AI ops, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for the question. So artificial intelligence is actually part of the smart machines, and any smart machine implementation without artificial intelligence may not yield the desired results, or you may not be able to maximize the results. What's the first question?
How do you
First part.
see AI ops impact infrastructure automation?
Yes. Artificial intelligence ops, right? So
Yeah.
yes. So as I said in my presentation, since the artificial intelligence has the capability of learning by itself and then correcting by itself, it doesn't need human intervention to tell it what it needs to do. So because of its inherent capability of learning on its own and then taking decision, so some of it as I said, it thinks like a human and then it takes its own decision. So most of those decisions are accurate, and over a period of time it's going to get better, and because of its learning capability, the whole thing is automated, so the results are much better than the normal traditional automation. So Ashwin, so you can share your views on how artificial intelligence impact operations, infrastructure operations.
Yeah, absolutely right. So let us take an example of a retailer. Now, there's a classical example that we keep talking about. So let us say that it's going to hit the Christmas season, or for that matter, any enterprise with a website up where there's a lot of cyclical demand, right? Now, what you essentially need is an infrastructure environment which can seamlessly and intelligently scale based on the demands that are required, right? So there are a lot of capacity management issues, a lot of problem management issues that come to the fore, and it's all about dealing with a lot of dynamic, environment issues that come to the fore. So the idea is, in such cases, we do not want manual intervention to be done, on a consistent basis, because it A, requires a lot of effort, and B, there could be a lot of errors that tend to creep in, let alone the compliance and security issues. So this is where an AI system can actually help understand and contextualize the particular environment. So it's all about using the data that is being built and leveraging artificial intelligence, which can bring in a lot of judgment and take away a complexity in the decision making that actually needs to be run by, say, the manual system administrators that are there. So in that sense, I completely echo Chandra's point that in fact AI forms the basis and is a critical element when you think about using smart machines within your IT infrastructure services setup.
Thank you. So the next question is, like SolarWinds Splunk, is this suite built on other third-party log monitoring predictive analytics tools? Chandra?
Okay, so I'll take that question. So I'll take a few more minutes to respond to that. It's asked by Richard Hughes. Richard, so the zero incident framework, which we saw in the last slide, is actually built on using 5 different components, and each of the component has its own function to do. Like one does the instrumentation, one does the prediction, one does the automation. Now, so these 5 components have different modules in it. Most of the modules have been built homegrown by GAPS technologies, and of course we also use some of the components from Microsoft. For example, we use Azure Machine Language, ML for the machine learning, and we also use application insights for instrumenting some of the application. But the instrumenting on other application like Java or Citrix environment or VDA environment, those instrumentation engines have been built by us. So it's a combination of both, mostly homegrown, some from Microsoft tools.
Thanks, Chandra. The next question is, what are some of the challenges in training the learning algorithms accurately?
Ashwin, can you take that question?
So, what are some of the... Yeah, so see, this is the concept, as I mentioned, is quite evolving at this point in time. So it is a fair question in the sense that we see both product vendors and service providers implementing a lot of time and effort in making these learning algorithms act more effectively. So one of the key challenges that we have seen in such implementations is that the accuracy of the learning algorithms tend to go down a bit when you typically scale this in very large environments, right? So that is why what we recommend to enterprises is to always take these products and initiatives in a very phased approach, wherein it is kind of applied in a sandbox manner within a certain small environment as a proof of concept, and then it's slowly scaled to other parts of operations, right? Obviously, these require skills both on the service provider side and the product developer and the product vendor side in terms of investing in specific tools and machine learning techniques to build. But I think it's a fair point. A lot of these techniques and technologies are still undergoing maturation, and as use cases become more and more prevalent, some of the issues and some of the accuracy in the learning algorithms will only get better.
The next question is, how are security concerns addressed while dealing with end-to-end IT operations? How are security concerns addressed while dealing with end-to-end IT operations, cloud or hybrid IT infra, business sensitive data, etc.? Ashwin, you want to address this?
Sure. So there are a few things that enterprises need to keep in mind. Right. So one, when you are considering products and technologies, it's obviously very important that you do a due diligence in terms of the tools that are being implemented, whether they are in line and have passed some of the basic security requirements and certifications that are out there. Now, these can also be industry specific and so on and so forth, right? So that's primarily around the specific tools that are getting implemented. If I think about the broader cloud and hybrid IT infrastructure that you're talking about, one, we see enterprises hold quite a preference for having the tools and solutions being deployed in an on-premise environment, wherein which kind of ensures that the enterprise data that is being collected and it's being monitored is still primarily within the firewalls of the enterprise, right? So that is one technique or one demand that we see happen. So there are very few cases where enterprises actually opt for some of these complex solutions to be hosted in a service provider environment or on the cloud. It can be done, but what we suggest is a proper due diligence is done in terms of how the enterprise data is being stored, it's being managed by the service provider or the product vendors who kind of implement such tools.
If I can add on to that, Raj, that's your question. If your concern is on the security when we implement these agents for the smart machine automation, so the response is this. All these agents that are going to run in the end systems and the end user machines are tested for security and hardened and run in a very highly secured mode. Second one, the data that these collects are actually the system data and these are not the business data. So most organizations may not have any problem in sending the system data to the cloud, and even if sending it to the cloud is a problem, all these tools, the zero incident framework, can work on premises also, so that the security is taken care whole locally in the organization, or it will be confined to the security standards of the organization.
All right. Moving on to the next question. What could possibly go wrong in AI RPA? Are there any risk to an organization by moving to automation? Chandra?
Okay. So Rajesh has asked that question. Yes, RPA, as I said, RPA is a little inflexible. While it is easy to jumpstart on RPA, you need to actually build that for a particular process. Basically, it uses the screen scraping technology. So if there is a change in your user interface or in the way that the data is being displayed in the screen, then you need to actually change the program. So if you don't do that, then there is a possibility of RPA not doing well. Now, in the artificial intelligence, there is a saying that the garbage in, garbage out. So the quality, how good we are sending the data, how good the quality of the data that is coming to this engine is what decides this accuracy. So the volume and the quality of the data decides. The more the volume, better the accuracy, good quality, good prediction.
Yeah. So Ashwin, here just to add on to that, so Chandra kind of talked about the technology aspect of adoption and some of the risks involved. So what enterprises also need to keep in mind is there's a change management involved, right? So if you think about the underlying objective of adopting this AI and an RPA techniques, the ultimate idea, as I mentioned earlier, is to not have automation driven in a very siloed manner, but actually break these silos across different functions, service lines, to have that pull-through efficiency, right? So that everything is well intertwined. So one of the key aspects, say for instance, if you talk about the DevOps as a use case, wherein you're using smart machine and automation to kind of drive the entire chain right from development to operations. So as much as it is about implementing tools, it is also about having a strong focus on breaking operational silos between different functions. So it's about having that interaction going amongst people in order to ensure that the value is driven from in an end-to-end manner. It's as much as change management, it's as much as having a strong governance layer on top to track the benefits that are being delivered by these AI tools as much as the technology in itself. So I just wanted to put that point out as well.
Thanks, Ashwin. I think we have no further questions. Yeah. There's one more question that's come now. So what is the typical ROI in terms of cost by smart machine-based automation? How are they better when compared to other traditional automation methods? Okay. Chandra?
Yes. See, not only in automation, in anything that we do, we want to achieve by 10x. The traditional automation actually helps reducing the resolution time or save the cost by 1x. The smart machine actually provides 10x. So I was telling you when I talked about that how smart machines enable zero incident framework. The smart automation through smart machine actually helps reducing about 60% of the service desk tickets. That means right away the service desk, the number of people manning the service desk can be cut down by 60%. And since it does more than service desk by way of identifying the events, correlating and tells you in advance, the number of L2, L3 people can also be cut down by 25 to 50% depending upon the starting, but depending upon how many P1, P2 they are having, and over a period of time they can actually reach about 50%. If while we save the cost by reducing the people, it also helps us in improving the quality of the whole delivery. Like what it actually comes along with that is 99.99 or near 100% uptime of the services. So smart machines definitely provides 10 times more the benefits than the traditional automation provides. Ashwin, so can you throw some light on this question?
Yeah, sure. So Chandra brings up a very valid point. So the ROI should not be just measured in terms of cost, but also service quality. Now, if you think about the end user side of it as an example, there are many end users who actually do not raise tickets even they undergo issues, right? So as an end user, my laptop might not be working fine, but the problem is I'm not one of those guys who traditionally raises tickets. Now, this cannot be measured in a traditional model of automation. If you think about using smart machines, now some of these issues can be found out by just monitoring my application response time and the kind of end user experience that I'm having, right? Now, this is something that is not tangible, but then becomes one of the key return on investment, wherein you necessarily need not associate a dollar value or reduction in the cost of driving operations. So service quality, user experience, all of this tend to become more important measurement metrics as much as cost reduction when you think about some of the next generation advanced automation concepts that we are talking about.
Yeah, thanks, Ashwin. So I think there are no further questions, and we are also coming to the close of the webinar. Okay, thank you all for joining this webinar today. If you have any further questions or you need further information, you can visit www.gapstech.com or drop an email to inquiry@gapstech.com.